Welcome to the first E4 Mobility Alliance Council meeting of the new year. We really look forward to future meetings this year in person to once again connect physically. But in the meantime, we're so appreciative of the partnerships and of the commitment on behalf of the Center for Competitive Workforce, which is a regional strong workforce initiative of the 19 community colleges in LA County in partnership with LAEDC, really to bring community colleges to the table on regional economic development initiatives, to connect community colleges as partners and as critical talent development systems with employers in our highest growth industry sectors. We offer at our colleges amazing programs with really excited students searching for not just jobs, but careers. And we hope that transportation and advanced transportation in the broadest sense really are able to appreciate the value of the talent that we are preparing. So I could not be more pleased on behalf of the community colleges to welcome you today. Judy, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that introduction of CCW. It's a strong partnership that the LAEDC has and for a few years now, and we really appreciate all the work that CCW does in building that talent pipeline, working with the community colleges. Just by way of background, this is the E4 Mobility Alliance with CCW Council, and we're delighted to have you join us. I know we have a number of fantastic panelists. We have a great keynote. The topic today is mobility on your mobile and new emerging apps in the ZEV space. We continue to build out the discussion related to electric vehicles, as it is so imperative right now with the new climate goals. And this is an ecosystem unlike any other place in the US. We have so many companies related to the ZEV industry. And by ZEV, we mean fuel cell and all the other verticals and electric vehicles. And we are delighted to continue the discussion because these are good paying jobs and we want to support the ecosystem that's in Southern California. And that's the mission of the LAEDC. And I'm Judy Kruger, Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives, and I oversee the E4 Mobility Alliance. And I also want to introduce Selena Picana. She's our program manager who has coordinated this event. So we're going to kick this off today. We've got a great lineup, like I said. And our keynote, I am honored to introduce, is Camille Terry. She is co-founder and CEO of Charger Help. Charger Help is an app that enables on-demand repair of EV charging stations. And I want to turn the virtual floor over to Camille. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Camille Christina Terry, and I am the co-founder and CEO at Charger Help. According to the Los Angeles Area Environmental Enforcement Collaborative, the American Lung Association's State of the Air for 2009 report identifies that Los Angeles is one of the most polluted cities in the nation. And if I'm honest, before entering the clean tech industry, the air quality and environment and its impact on my community in South Central Los Angeles was not necessarily something that I ever contemplated. Even if I had, I wouldn't have been able to truly articulate its impact on me, my community, and the world. I was more concerned about the lack of economic mobility, equity, access that has long plagued my community. I knew that people in my community was capable of formulating amazing ideals that could lead to monetary gain. However, we lacked adequate access to resources, capital, and the know-how to properly participate in the industries that were most profitable, but seemed to be off limit to us. The vision of my company was birthed out of the gap that I noticed within the electric vehicle industry. According to the U.S. Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, the greatest impact of reduced carbon emissions is the improvement of public health within urban areas where thousands of people drive cars. There is currently an executive order that requires the selling of zero-emission passenger vehicles right here in the state of California by the year of 2035. With this mandate comes the need for accessible, functioning charging stations, especially since charging an EV is essential to travel. The state of California presently have over 650,000 EVs on the road and about 20,000 charging stations across the state. And with that, our industry has a tall order to ensure the uptime of charging stations. And logically, defective charging stations create a concern for travelers, compressing the convenience of purchasing an EV, which creates an even larger concern for the economy, who is pushing forward with making vehicles available for consumers. At Charger Help, we see this as an opportunity to support the infrastructure and to create jobs. Creating jobs for individuals, specifically within underserved communities in the Los Angeles area, aids in increasing the economic compression. Conversely, Charger Help is dedicated to training individuals through creating a continuation of service for charging station owners. Through an app, we're able to receive a support ticket and we're able to initiate a 3-step process to support charging station maintenance in real time. Once our technicians are alerted, they're able to navigate to where the station is, triage the situation, troubleshoot or escalate the issue, and receive payment. This process will in turn aid consumers by ensuring fast and efficient maintenance of charging stations throughout the Los Angeles area. Ultimately, the creation of successful, thriving, livable wage jobs can be offered to all people throughout the communities here in Los Angeles. In 2020, I took a leap of faith and launched Charger Help. Charger Help has developed a unique approach that virtually eliminates this industry's pitfall and allows charging station consumers to contract their services and gain access to expedient and efficient maintenance services for failing charging stations. Our unique base platform is a trailblazing digital application that allows consumers to place orders to have qualified EV charging station technicians service malfunctioning charging stations in a fraction of time. Our model makes EV technicians readily accessible at any time to consumers, virtually eradicating the downtime of charging stations in need of servicing. With the launch of our business, I not only sought to obtain success as an entrepreneur, but also wanted to make sure that every step of my journey included creating opportunities to bring access, capital, strategic upward career development for underserved communities. With this thought in mind, Charger Help partnered with the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator to teach our proprietary curriculum to about 50 participants in about 9 months. In addition, Charger Help is diligent in its advocacy and the design of its business model with the goal of ensuring equitable access to resources, proper salary, benefit packages for our technicians, and even the opportunity to gain shares within our company. Last week, we've launched our recruitment process across 6 states, including California, Colorado, New York, Washington, Texas, Florida, in order to support our current contracts. And as I mentioned in the beginning, my concern for economic mobility and equity and access once overshadowed my understanding of the environment. However, through creating a company that supports an infrastructure that is set to improve the livelihood alongside of creating equitable paying jobs, I believe I have uncovered my sweet spot. At the onset of my journey to begin Charger Help, I envisioned a company that would solve a real world issue, while at the same time meeting a need that would provide access to sustainable jobs in all communities. My dream at its core was founded on the ideal of actualizing equitable green transition for communities like the one I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. And so as I wrap, I would like to do a challenge that I usually do when I go out and speak. I challenge those of us within this industry to reimagine how we can utilize our leverage, our reach, our influence to get the right people into the right jobs. With technology being an ever-evolving sector, I challenge us to seek creative solutions and ideals that will educate and train underserved communities on the necessary skills it takes to be successful within this industry. I know that by equipping these communities with the necessary soft skills coupled with supportive knowledge-based skills, we can make an impact in the workforce, creating a pathway for those who have traditionally been kept out of this industry and an entry point to access into sustainable careers. Today, I challenge and I admonish each of you in positions of influence and power to think about how you can cultivate, embrace, and financially support the innovation that exists in communities like the Crenshaw District, like Boyle Heights, like East Los Angeles. Become the bridge and open the door for others to bring forth their innovative ideals. And trust me, I am only one ideal that is cultivated and supported, but there are millions of others in communities such as the one that I grew up in, ones that may truly change our world. Thank you so much for your time. I am thrilled to hop right into our panel discussion, which I am always excited to bring along forth amazing founders who are really rethinking about how we go about EV adoption and supporting our infrastructure. So my first panelist that I would like to introduce is Tosh Dutt, who is the founder and CEO at ChargeNet. Take it away, Tosh.
Hey, thanks, Camille. And I really enjoyed your talk and really echo a lot of the sentiment that you have being a Los Angeles native and growing up in disadvantaged communities and low-income neighborhoods myself. So like Camille said, I'm Tosh Dutt. I'm the CEO of ChargeNet. And we're a SaaS company creating the EV charging experience to the future using renewable energy in fast food and retail parking lots by integrating off-the-shelf technology. So, everyone's heard the news, right? The extinction of the gas vehicle has been announced by countries, including ours, and auto companies around the world, and it's rocketing EVs into the mainstream. And thanks to GM and Will Ferrell, we now have an EV rivalry with Norway, Sweden, and maybe even Finland, which means in the next few years, we'll have over 5 million EVs on the road, and we'll need more than 250,000 public EV chargers to charge them all. And our utilities and current charging infrastructure already can't keep up. With restaurant and retail industries being hit so hard, property owners and tenants are desperate for ways to generate more revenue and profit for their customers than before. So what we're able to do at ChargeNet is bring a business model that solves all these converging problems together. What we're doing is we're making EV charging synchronous with our daily routines. For EV adoption to sustain the growth that we're going to see, it really has to fit in with the way that we live our lives and how we do things. It has to be serendipitous, like how fast and convenient getting gas is. And right now, charging is a planned event. It is inconvenient and causes anxiety. What we're able to do is align fast charging EVs with the time it takes to eat a meal, so it coincides with our daily activities. Our ChargeNet station transforms, your favorite fast food restaurant's parking lot into a spot where not only will you be able to satisfy your appetite, you're using clean, renewable energy to charge a car and get around 100 miles of charge in 50 minutes or less, all in one convenient transaction. And unlike others, we're integrating solar and battery storage with EV chargers. EV drivers interact directly with our point of sale software, which generates customer profiles for us that have historical data about their EV charging habits, food choices, and other data that feed back into our optimization. And because we own this data, it opens the door for us to use this in really creative ways. Our hardware agnostic SaaS platform that we have uses this data to maximize savings, reduce operating costs, generate more carbon credits, and improve charging station utilization. We can displace more than 228,000 gallons of gas, eliminating over 2,000 metric tons of CO2 at each station. And this is kind of core to what we're talking about here. This is especially important for disadvantaged communities, which have a disproportionate amount of fast food restaurants where we're able to make a significant impact. I'm not sure if you know, but here in California, we have 31,000 fast food restaurants. That's a lot of carbon, not just from, an emissions point of view, but also from a food point of view that releasing into the environment. So, kind of talking about, echoing Camille's talk, this is a really high growth area. And for us, from, software development point of view, from an integration point of view, it's really important that we're able to help people transition from, job markets that are, that have kind of evaporated, and be able to repurpose their talents and skills to be able to build the charging infrastructure that we're going to need for the long run. And I'll speak frankly here, like people like me and Camille are highly underrepresented, and Josh too, in the clean tech industry. You know, I've had challenges throughout my career trying to be able to get to where I want to go. And so really core to what we're doing, and I think what my peers are doing, along with, you know, Mike's company, Tritium, and the other folks on the panel, is really giving a platform for underrepresented, you know, thought leaders and talent to be able to showcase their talents and their capabilities. And so a lot of our focus is, at least for me, is being able to give that platform and empower people to be able to do that in different areas, whether it's, you know, the construction side of things, or the integration side, or the software development side, or even the finance side too as well. So what's great is we're seeing lots of groups that are focusing on empowering women in the space, and also empowering, you know, BIPOC and minorities to have, you know, leadership roles in the space, and also fill other positions in the job market, and really provide equity, not just from, you know, position point of view, but also from a pay point of view. So I'm really excited to be a part of this panel, and I'm excited to get your questions and get your thoughts on everything that we're talking about. Thank you.
Josh Aviv is up next, and he is the founder and CEO of SparkCharge.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. You know, at SparkCharge, we're really geared toward making sure that electric vehicle owners can charge their car anytime and anywhere they want. We really want to make electric vehicle charging accessible to all EV owners. And the way that we're doing that is through two separate routes. Number one is our innovative charging technology, what we call the Roadie. It's the world's lightest, portable, and fastest electric vehicle charger on the market. And it can be brought to any electric vehicle owner with the push of a button. This means that an electric vehicle owner can now be sitting outside of a Starbucks, they can be going into a mall, they can be eating at a restaurant, they can be sitting on their couch and essentially have range delivered to them on demand. This really opens up a lot of doors for innovative ways for charging. For example, now an EV owner can say, hey, Alexa, bring me 50 miles of range, and they never have to leave their seat, and the range can be brought to them. The other way that we're helping transition and move electric vehicles faster is through our platform called Boost EV. Boost EV is what connects EV owners with the providers who bring the charge to them. We live in a world today where basically everything is housed on our phone. Our grocery store lives on our phone with Instacart. Our chauffeur lives on our phone with Uber. Our delivery guy lives on our phone with Grubhub. And with Boost EV, your charging station can now live on your phone as well. You can take your phone out, push a button, and anywhere that service is available, you can have range delivered on the spot. You can pay, request time, set up an advanced charge, or have it delivered as soon as possible. We really believe that with Boost EV and the Roadie together, we're creating a whole new different type of network. We're creating a network that's always on, always available, cost effective, and really allows the EV owner to gain freedom into their journey. It allows them to have freedom to own the electric vehicle, charge the electric vehicle, and drive the electric vehicle on their terms for the first time. Never having to worry about planning their trip, never having to worry about where their next charge will come from. We're super excited that this service will be available in 12 cities starting next week. We'll have a big announcement coming on that, along with our inaugural partners, and where that'll be launching. You can download Boost EV now onto your mobile phone with Android or Apple, and we're super excited to eventually be rolling out more cities and more partners as the year continues. I'm super excited to be part of this panel. More than happy to answer any questions on our charging technology or Boost EV. Thank you guys so much. Take care.
Thanks, Josh. All right. Next introducing is Mike Calise from Tritium Charging Stations.
Hi guys, how are you? Mike Calise. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm profoundly humbled to be able to join this great panel. For those of you who don't know who Tritium is, we're one of the largest suppliers in the world of DC fast charging. And for some who don't know the difference between DC fast charging and AC charging, these are the chargers that are effectively giving you a real lot of range from very little time. Very large, somewhat expensive, but obviously for public use, tremendously needed. And you know, some AC chargers can fit in your home and in commercial areas, but DC is really what's required to create lift, to give people confidence that when they take a trip, they'll be able to charge very quickly and get on their way. If you take a look at DC charging, you have Tesla's written a good playbook for that, certainly with superchargers. And we think that's a phenomenal model to look at. However, it's sort of known that Tesla still today adheres to the sort of more affluent demographic. Now that's going to change. And so people who argue that that's all they're interested in, that's going to change. They have to start somewhere. But if you look at the playbook, Electrify America is a great example where they're building corridor charging, DC fast charging across the United States to fill up all of those gaps between city to city. And that's a very important deployment because it allows people to say, hey, honey, I'm not sure I'm going to buy an EV yet because even though we use most of our miles locally to commute, you know, if I have to go on a long sales trip or we have to go visit family, I want to be confident that I can get from city to city. Not that everybody goes cross country every day, right? But you need to go from city to city. So that first established deployment of those DC fast chargers, whether it's Blink or EVgo or Electrify America, is really important to establish the early confidence for drivers. But here's what's the most important and very germane to what we're doing here. Now, DC fast charging is no longer relegated just to corridor charging or city-to-city charging. Now what's happening is DC fast charging is becoming everywhere. In fact, one of the missions for Tritium is to put DC everywhere. And why is that important? You've got to bring DC into where people live. Effectively in the inner cities, in the high-density populations, in the thriving cities, so that you can access public charging to do your daily work or your daily trips. So people say, well, hey, we'll just charge at home. You might not need that DC. But when you look at half of California rents, multi-unit dwellings, condominiums, high-density populations, buildings. Look at the city of New York. We just announced in the borough, the highest population borough, Brooklyn, New York, of the highest population city, a massive super hub of universal charging. And that's the first of its kind, and it'll set an example of what we should see moving forward. So now when you look at the equitability and the availability of these chargers, you're starting to see that these can now be easily accessed by everybody. And when you're easily accessed by everybody, you can go down to your local shopping center and fast charge. So within 40 minutes, having almost a full charge of battery, 200, 300 miles in the time it takes you to maybe do a quick grocery shopping or get a bite to eat. Or if you just want to spend 10 or 15 minutes there, get another 100 miles on your tank, if you will, to get you around in virtually anywhere you need to go in a day. So we're starting to see this massive step change happen and the growth of DC fast charging happen in the next 5 years. Certainly the Biden administration and what California's done with a very progressive administration to deploy is tremendous milestones. And when you look at how important it is to get these DC fast chargers in the areas where are subject to the highest smog situations, they're subject to the dirtiest air. And what that means is that people who can't afford to live in the best areas also suffer the most. And that's a travesty. So it's so important that we put these DC fast chargers in areas that can be accessible by everybody in all demographics. And even the CEC through that's the California Energy Commission, obviously administered by the state of California. And then the rebates happen by Cal EVIP. What happens there is they want to make sure that at least 25% of these are going in equitable areas. Because sometimes people say, I don't want to put that DC where people don't have the vehicles. I want to make money where people have the vehicles. And that's fine. But if you don't put them where people don't have the vehicles, they'll never get the vehicles. So now there's a great target, and it's highly equitable to put DC everywhere so that they're accessible for everybody. And that's really the key to Tritium. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. All right, last but certainly not least, Alyssa Hurl, Director of Transportation Development at Circuit.
Thank you so much, Camille. I have some visuals, so let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so At Circuit, we're working on the first last mile problem. We are an all-electric local microtransit service with a focus on Southern California, but operating nationally. You know, here in Los Angeles, I don't need to tell you that congestion is a problem. We all knew what it was before the pandemic. And you might have also seen that this is coming back. But single occupancy vehicles they're bad for cities. There's more cars, more congestion, and you know, over 1/3 of vehicle trips are short. So this first last mile problem, it's bridging to other types of transportation. It's bridging to local connections. And in Los Angeles, around 50% of vehicle trips are actually under 3 miles. Polling last year during the pandemic showed that people are going to be less willing to travel on public transit. And we feel like that's going to be a really big problem if we don't make the image of public transit both fun and safe. So we have a simple solution. It's a tech-enabled service. So we both have a mobile app as well as operating a fleet of all electric vehicles. We've been operating with exclusively all electric vehicles since 2011. It's possible to do this now. We have a rider app, which is specifically tuned for the first last mile. And we also have a suite that we could do for data reports and backend management. It's plug and play, a turnkey service. The really big reason why it's different is that it is all electric now. We know that many private fleet operators, as well as independent contractor fleets, have plans to be electric in the next 10 to 15 years, but our fleet of over 100 vehicles is already all electric. We also focus on local connections. So this is to your local transit station, home, work, and local hotspots, which is important during the economic development coming out of this pandemic. We focus on the short trips, reduce wait times, and do this in a way that's on demand, in a way that riders are used to traveling right now. And riders really love this. The top 3 reasons they love our service is that it's electric, it's fun, and the drivers. We hire all of our drivers. They are ambassadors to the local region, and they're truly an asset to our service and at the front lines of our connections to the community. So we partner with cities, agencies, and private developers to provide this service for free or at a very low cost. We do this because we want to be complementary to what the cities are doing and not disrupt or take away from existing public transit service. We also have an in-house advertising team that focuses on selling advertising in the communities that allow it. This can help to promote local business, wherein, for example, in San Diego, we've had focus on shop small and shop local. It also helps reduce the cost to our transportation customers. And in the LA region, which is an area of our top focus for us, we have been focusing on local trips since 2013. We operate in Santa Monica, Marina del Rey, and Venice, as well as a new pilot in South Los Angeles with the LA Clean Tech Incubator. This personally has been a great experience for me to be able to see what perceptions of electric vehicles and new innovations and technology are in a disadvantaged community. For this area, we have also done local hiring preferences, meaning that we hired within the local community, and a panel of community partners told us what they thought local meant. So aside from this partnership with the Clean Tech Incubator, we're also working on the Santa Monica Zero Emissions Delivery Zone. And we've been focusing on connecting people to stuff that means meaning for them in their local space. So that's local shops, it's food, it's health, it's transit. One of the top reasons that people use our service is to get to food, local restaurants and grocery stores, especially during this pandemic. So this allows us, our type of service allows us to be more broadly equitable. We do have options for those that don't have smartphones. A free service makes it accessible to those that are unbanked. And we don't have a gender gap that you might see in vehicle adoption or scooters or other sorts of first last mile services. And I think this is pretty important, because while women are they tend to want electric vehicles more and care about the positive effects of electric vehicles, they do not buy as many electric vehicles. And I think that changing this is helpful because that's going to be what drives electric vehicle adoption further. We also know from our riders that when they ride in our service, it's often their first time in an electric vehicle at all. And this is in both disadvantaged communities as well as, beach and downtown communities. During the pandemic, we've continued to operate with our city partners. We've also pivoted a little bit, helping to connect nurses to hospitals in the New York area, visiting nurses during the early part of the pandemic, and then also delivering food with a local food bank. We've focused on making it safe, professional, and clean. The vehicles have the ability to be open air, which helps reduce viral transmission. This all connects into our vision. We truly live, last mile people first. And we think that reducing congestion, as well as the greenhouse gas emissions associated with internal combustion engines, is important. And we need to promote more mass transit, shared rides, accessible options, and in ways that work with the cities, not against them. I can go into our impact more if you have any questions about it, but I really want to stress, pushing the EV adoption by allowing someone to ride in an electric vehicle in a fun and unique way is something I think is very important. So enjoy the ride. I'm happy to answer any questions during the panel and connect with you guys afterwards. I'll put my information in the chat as well.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. All right, team. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the panel. And I want to start off with Mike from Tritium. So I want you to talk just a little bit more about where do you see your business heading, and with where you see it heading, what is the opportunity for job growth, and what are the types of jobs you're looking at creating?
Sure. So where our business is heading is I'm glad I'm on video, up and to the right, hard now because of the hockey stick. And to describe that, it's been 10 years really since the advent of the first production vehicles in December of 2010, which was the Nissan Leaf and the Chevy Volt. And it took literally 10 years, a decade, in order for it to create what we call a tipping point, or that knee in the curve. And tipping points mean different things to different people, but I like to just consider them where there's just no turning back. And so what happens now, and this is very well studied in business and in technology disruption, is it takes a long time for things to take off, but then once you turn that tipping point, it actually exponentially grows at rates that you didn't expect. So it actually happens later than you expect, which is why it's taken a decade. But once it happens shorter than you expect. So it's no longer this linear growth thing. It takes a long time and then it skyrockets and then it levels off for the S. So we're in that second decade, the first decade, the second decade where everything is going to happen. And then the last decade from 2030 to 2040, it'll actually tail off. We'll have complete migration over to electrification. So our business is really about putting these fast chargers in order to unleash dramatic adoption. So what does that entail relative to the jobs? We're an essential business. We are a company that is fuels transportation. And we're here in Torrance, California. I'm here out of my Redondo Beach apartment, being COVID safe. But right down the road is our massive Torrance facility. And within that facility, we take these chargers, we ship them over from Australia. We take these chargers and we effectively modify them to meet the specific needs of every one of our different customers here in the United States. So what that entails is technology, technician, customer service and support, end-of-line testing. We even have folks that put on these tremendous decals on these units to make them look awesome for private branding for third-party customers. We have network people who can connect modems to these units and credit cards to these units. So we have both skilled labor and unskilled labor. We have production people. We have We have technicians, as I mentioned, who are both internally looking at repairs as well as externally looking at specific customer needs. So it's a pretty diverse group, and we hire folks with master's degrees in engineering to absolutely no education. And I'd like to say that we're proud to say we've hired the full spectrum, including a story about hiring somebody who frankly lived in his car. And he had, gave him a chance, and he's one of our best employees. He knows and he appreciates what employment means for self-worth and self-pride, all the way to masters in engineering. And so we're proud to say that we hire a complete diverse set of gender-neutral employees, and we're looking forward to that growth moving forward, particularly with the Biden administration tailwinds we expect, and with California's policy.
Thank you so much for that, Mike. And I've been to your facility in Torrance, and it is beautiful, and you all definitely have beautiful charging stations. So
thank you.
Cool. I have the same question for Josh over at Spark Charge. Can you talk a little bit about your growth? I know you've been in the media a lot about just what y'all are doing, and if you can talk to what type of jobs are you looking to create?
Yeah, we've seen a huge jump in our growth when it comes to customer acquisition, but also consumer growth with the Boost EV signups. We know that there's a lot of momentum building for a service like this because it truly does remove a lot of the questions around where, when, and how electric vehicle owners charge their car. Essentially, our business model, we work with businesses, so we sell our chargers to those businesses, and those businesses go out and deliver that charge to an EV owner who's requested it. So when you look at job growth, when you look at how we impact certain communities, not only are we taking, the average mom and pop shop and basically turning them into a charging station provider, we're giving them jobs and they're able to go out and hire people, but we're also hiring people in our communities in Buffalo, New York, out in LA, in Boston, Massachusetts, where we're able to actually hire people and put them to work for engineering, technical, sales, consulting, customer success. We're really building out this, this new network. And that requires us to dig deep. It requires us to really focus on who's going to be interacting with these customers, who's going to be interacting with these EV owners. And we've had to put a lot of thought into that. But I mean, when you think about the growth that we've seen working from business to business, we work with everyone from large scale OEMs all the way to utility companies, roadside companies. But we've also seen this growing flux of people who are independent contractors, people who typically deliver for Uber and Lyft, and now have said, hey, I want to actually start delivering range to EV owners. So now you're taking these 1099 workers and you're now allowing them to actually join the electric vehicle revolution. I mean, when you're able to take, every parking spot, every location, every apartment complex, condo, home, and basically say, you don't need to put a pole in the ground. You don't need to get an RFP. You don't need to do construction. Our unit works when you take it out of the box, you set it on the ground, you plug it into the car. You're really changing the way people perceive electric vehicles. You're changing the way the economy is going to look when people service electric vehicles. We can take any parking spot, any garage, any location, anywhere, and make it a charging station at the push of a button. And I think that's really going to grow. And I think that's really going to change the way that people foresee electric vehicles. And it's really basically been backed up by our growth. We now work with some of the top Fortune 500 companies in the world as it relates to electric vehicle growth and adoption. And that's only going to get better and better.
Thank you so much, Josh. And one of the things I'm very excited with this panel, and I hope everyone sees it, is it's a true ecosystem, right? We need every single player in the game. So I'm very excited about that. So I want to transition with 2 additional questions over to Tosh at ChargeNet. So the coolest thing I think about ChargeNet is that I can go to a Taco Bell, and if I wanted to order a taco, I could also charge my car, and I could order all of that on a big screen. I think that's amazing. Yeah. But if you can talk a little bit about the challenges you see coming forth for within your industry, with your growth as well.
Yeah, I think the challenge is going to be a challenge of abundance. I mean, like Mike had said, EV everywhere, and I think that even now in the market that we have, with what Josh is doing, what Mike's doing, and some of the other players that are in the market, there's still the needs to fulfill it are still growing. And so what's great about what we're doing is I think there's room for all of us to succeed. And there's no sort of one right way to do this, because everyone's going to need, a solution. And it's going to be an issue of convenience. I think the folks that can create an opportunity where, we're creating the serendipitous, event of doing something and charging, is really where people are going to use it the most. So, I think the challenge is going to be like in adapting to different ecosystems, and finding the right ways that this is going to work for people, like, people in multifamily unit dwellings, and in inner cities too as well. You don't have a lot of real estate. So, certain mobility opportunities, like with circuits doing is going to be important over there. So, and I think one of the challenges that some of our peers that are a little bit earlier in the game, that are now, kind of going public and everything, is how do we make this profitable, right? What's the business model that makes this profitable, where we can support, the growth that we need to see? I think really kind of honing in on that business model, finding the ways to work with utilities to make rate tariff design favorable to doing this, is really going to be important for the long run.
Thank you, Josh. And Alyssa, same question to you. And I guess if y'all are in the Leimert Park area, you'll see the circuit vans. I saw the one on Crenshaw the other day. I had to pull over to take a picture, but they're the cutest little things circling around the community. So kudos to your company. But yeah, definitely, what is the challenges to growth that you see specifically for your company?
So I also saw it in the chat, but I think there's this mindset that electric vehicles are expensive. And I will tell you that as a fleet operator for 10 years, we know for sure that that is not the case. If you take into account operations and maintenance, there's maybe a larger upfront cost in some cases, but there is still this perception. I think it's also perpetuated by more traditional fleet operators that you can't do electric right now. And we're helping to change that perception. And we hope that that carries over into personal vehicles as well. But I think especially for fleet, and Amazon is proving this too, that you can do electric and you could do it right now. You don't have to wait until 2035. In terms of challenges for growth, though, obviously we're in a pandemic and that has affected a lot of different industries. For us, we do have an advertising side of our market. And with less people going outside, the out-of-home market has gone down. But I think that a lot of companies are also looking for a hyper-local approach. And we're there in the community. And we have driver ambassadors that are able to educate people about the community, tell them things that they didn't know, but also to tell them about your brand and create a really nice brand relationship, especially during a very difficult time. We also, we work with cities. We are not strangers to the fact that that can be difficult. We are working on both the grant process, which helps get cities funding to start up a pilot and prove something out. We're also working with cities directly that they know they want this service now and when is the best time to start it. And then we're also, familiar with the RFP process and when it gets to that stage, and helping, the community to really be able to bring this type of service. But often we have to say that, hey, this is an alternative option because you're asking for gas-powered vehicles when we know for sure we could already do this electric. So that is, one of the challenges is it's so much just this mindset, but it's very easy to change because, we've proven it across the country, 20 different locations. And in terms of hiring, I think that there's a lot of people that would like to have a W-2 paid position and to also have training and professional development. And there's unfortunately been a lot of people laid off. So we haven't had any challenges in getting, people that are, high quality people into our driver ambassador positions. We also have, we could train the drivers to be mechanics on the vehicles. And then we're also working with a new internship program in the Los Angeles area to be able to have people from disadvantaged background students to be able to do an internship with our program. So I think, we really need to change these perceptions that EV is not possible and that EV is not me, right? EV can be, any community, and it could totally fit in any community. The vehicle behind me, this was designed with the community. LADWP graciously sponsored our vehicle here in our LA Clean Tech Incubator program, and they incorporated the community's design. So I think that's some of the challenges that we're seeing, but they definitely can be overcome.
Thank you so much for that, Alyssa. This next question, I want to open it up to the entire panel. So Mike did an amazing job just talking about the range of folks that, that he has currently working at his company. And so I would love to understand, what type of skill sets are you looking for? So if it's not necessarily a specific degree, what type of skill sets are things that would pop out to you that you would want to hire for at your company? And so I would love to start off with Tosh, and then we can head to Spark Charge and hit Mike and then Alyssa. Go ahead, Tosh.
Thanks, Camille. So, we have a breadth of opportunities, especially since we're a little bit newer than Camille, and definitely Mike and definitely Josh. So there's a lot of growth opportunity within our organization. We're in the process of building a sales organization. And certain aspects of our business will then eventually move in-house. Somebody's got to build these things, right? And at a certain point when we reach a certain amount of scale, we want to have a labor force that understands how to install, solar and understands batteries and EV chargers. And so for the opportunity for us is to build, installation teams within our organization, and eventually, carry the labor overhead to be able to do those things. Now, that's not going to happen right away, but it will happen eventually. But the other thing too is, with the sort of market that we're addressing, having people that understand the QSR market, the fast food market, may have worked in the fast food market too as well, and it gives a lot of opportunity for underrepresented folks to be able to do something different, move into the EV space, and be able to address the market that they know and love so well.
Thank you for that, Tosh. And I love this idea of transferable skills. I think that's a huge, huge, huge thing. Josh, how about you? What skill sets are you looking for when you do hire for your team?
Yeah, so the skill sets that we're looking for are people who are motivated, people who are detail oriented. We want people who really, have bought into this, this vision, this mission of there will be an electric future. I think, you might say, well, of course you're looking for that, but believe it or not, when you're out there and you're talking to talent and you're looking for really good talent, sometimes it can be hard to find people who really buy into that mission, buy into that vision. When it comes to specific roles, we saw a huge increase with the number of businesses that wanted to join the platform, number of, traditional businesses that you wouldn't think typically service electric vehicles are now, really gunning to get in on this EV market, and they're looking to do it with us. So we've actually started looking for customer success, customer sales, people who can really, give a white glove experience to a lot of these large companies who are joining our platform to service EV owners. We're always looking for, engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, technicians, things like that. We're constantly looking for those. So if you know any, always feel free to send them our way.
Thanks so much, Josh. And that's such a big deal about customer success. I actually started off as a driver support agent at an EV network company, and I knew nothing about it. And 2 years and 9 months later, I own a company in the field. So definitely starting off at any space within some of these companies can actually change your overall trajectory. So thanks for that, Josh. All right, Mike, what about you? If you could talk a little bit more about some of the skill sets you are looking for.
Yeah, I think Josh made a good point, and we're after very similar types of motivations as well as skill sets. But one area that we differentiate pretty significantly as well is in our customer service, effectively global customer service team. So people who are good on the phone, who could troubleshoot, people who can get trained, who have an open mind, who can tolerate situations of troubleshooting and people and consumers. So we have a sizable growth area in customer service. We're one of our key strategies as a differentiator in the market is we're exceptionally good at B2B customer service as well as B2C customer service. So that's an area beyond the others that were mentioned. And then of course the production facility folks, again, people who can apply decals, people who are can test using what we call test jigs. You don't really need to have skilled labor here. You need to know how to just read a manual, stay safe, listen to folks around you, and learn by doing. I think the key is learn by doing. This is a very new area, but I would see that a lot of the skill sets that were applied to other types of businesses can apply here. And I'll just make a statement that, oil and gas people who may see that, their future is looking grim or their future may not be growth, they can apply those skills to renewable energy and DC. People who repair gas pumps can repair DC fast charging. So a lot of these skill sets are transferable, and I believe there's a great opportunity for Angelenos to sort of keep their eyes open to this and look forward to this tremendous growth.
Thank you so much for that, Mike. And then Alyssa, if you can let us know what type of skill sets for those W-2 workers that y'all are hiring, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so we have Los Angeles, San Diego, Southern California region generally. We also have South Florida and New York. So there's many different areas, and Texas. We have different areas that we're hiring on the operations side. And the top thing that we look for is customer service skills. Like, be passionate about what you do. If you're new to the EV industry, it's totally fine. We'll train you in driving an electric vehicle and how to use our app. But those people skills are super important in our operations. And then we do also have a corporate team for that. We hear a lot that STEM skills are extremely focused on. Although for me and in what I do sort of personally, it's a lot about how you communicate, and to be able to communicate electric vehicle microtransit services to anyone without jargon, if you need to, in a simple way, but also to be able to make an economic argument. Because I mean, for electric vehicles, there is a really strong economic argument for why we should go all electric, or why we should go zero emissions at least. And, for why mobility increases economic development, it all ties in. If this was all just passion, I mean, I am, of course, a true believer, but there is also the economic reasons for all of this. So I think being able to be adaptable, to be able to connect things together, writing skills are also very important, but just be able to communicate, and that's at the driver and at the corporate level. And I will also say, Camille, you shared how you started. I got into the clean tech space by applying to be a volunteer at the LA Clean Tech Incubator. And they saw my background and gave me a fellowship instead. But I think that's a lot of the people that got into the space. I think they get in through some kind of interest in that way, but they also have workforce development programs. So I think, if you don't see an immediate position from, any of us up here, that's always a great place in the LA area to check in with.
Absolutely. And also that actually kind of brings me into my next question about how does equity fit in the picture of the companies? And the one thing I want to wrap up from what you said is that the biggest thing is allowing Angelenos to understand that this space is not a space that they cannot fit into, right? Like everyone here talked about transferable skills, customer success, customer experience, being willing to learn, right? And so these are things that everybody has, you know, that's very prominent within our community. So I just want to highlight that. And just go into the question here with our panel. Yeah, how does equity fit in the picture of what you're doing as building a company? And whoever wants to take that first, I open that up for who wants to go first on that.
I'll make a quick opening statement and just letting you know that historically, it's critical that we hire people that represent people. And I think that is often overlooked, but I'm hopeful that it's starting to move in the right direction. And I'm making no political statements here as well. This is industry hiring people who represent the consumers out there, which is a massive diverse space of race, creed, color, gender, sexual orientation. So you'd be doing your company a tremendous disservice relative to its, you know, cutthroat capitalistic strategy, okay, which I'm pretty good at, without recognizing the importance of bringing in a diverse team. Because if you're all of one ilk, whatever that might be, you can't think diversity. And when your customer base is diverse, you'd be missing the majority of it. It's real simple. It's a strategic weapon to hire a diverse groups, and that means all groups. So you get a full sense of the economic demographic diversity, as well as the others I described. I'm very driven on that mission personally and on behalf of Tritium. We're a global powerhouse and we pride ourselves on hiring diverse backgrounds, and we learn all of what it takes and become a better company because of it. So anybody's capable of joining Tritium, provided they have that, you know, good background and provided they have that tremendous passion moving forward. And I'll leave it at that. I
really appreciate you saying that, Mike, because I think that when companies realize that that is a business issue and it's not a nice to have or it's not charity work, it's like, actually, this just makes us a more profitable company. That's when you see like actual real movement towards equity. So thank you so much for saying that. Anybody else wants to add onto what Mike said? Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So, you know, so I've seen both sides of the coins, and I'm fortunate to do that. And, you know, I spent 8.5 years in Hawaii, and really where I got my start in clean tech. And, you know, Hawaii is a very diverse state, a very diverse community. I had the opportunity to work for a very diverse clean tech startup early in my career. And, you know, I got to see just how dynamic everyone's perspective was, and a lot of great ideas flowed around from all those different perspectives. And then, you know, when I moved here, and hopefully this isn't controversial, you know, there was the companies that I worked for that were of the same ilk, and it seemed like that mediocrity was acceptable and that thrived, and you didn't have those conversations where you had those diverse perspectives. It was almost like something, you know, certain ideas were being shoved down the throat because that, you know, this person said that. And so, you know, and those voices, you know, if you did have a voice that challenged that, it wasn't accepted, it wasn't acceptable. So you know, it's, for me, to create a high performing, you know, killer company, it's imperative that I have those voices. I think that drives success, it drives profitability, and it drives opportunity and growth. And if you don't have that and you do accept mediocrity, you're not going to go anywhere. So that's kind of where I stand, and it's really stemming from my experience. And you know, I'm really grateful that I've been able to have that experience and have the opportunity to be able to create opportunities for others.
And let me comment on the backside of that, Tosh, if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead, Mike.
You know, Schneider Electric is a great example of a highly diverse company. I have experience with Schneider Electric. I ran their North American EV business for 4+ years. And we recognized that we had, you know, I say we, the shareholders and the management acquired companies that that were not necessarily diverse. And so it was really important that we would initiate those change agents in order to move forward in all of the advantages I said. And I was very much a part of that transition when I was there. What I think will happen, Tasha, and you're absolutely correct, not everybody's bought in yet, and they don't walk the walk, they can talk the talk. But eventually, the way I look at it is this: those companies that are hiring diversity are going to get the lion's share of those employees. And eventually, those who are of an ilk, and I don't even know where I come up with that, whatever that might be, sort of a very narrow cross-section of a diverse population in any way you want to look at it, will eventually find themselves really challenged with hiring people. So I'm convinced longer term, I mean, that's what America stands for. Yeah, maybe in the last 4 years, in the last 3 months, we've lost a little of that in the media and what's going on, but that's always been what America's stood for. And I believe that is now pronounced more than it's ever been because of what happened last year in November and December. It's almost it's raised in awareness, and now it said, no, here's what America really looks like, and it's very powerful. I'm an optimist there a little bit, but I'm also one that makes those changes, and I see that change happening, and I see the diversity happening, and particularly with gender right now, as things are becoming very commonplace with women in leadership in very powerful positions. Mary Barra at GM, Zoe at EVgo, Kathy, and Jane Hunter at Tritium. I'm so proud of that, having a CEO at the helm. And it's not like, oh, we have a woman CEO at the helm. No, we have a powerful CEO at the helm, and she happens to be a woman. And that's what we really drive. And I'm seeing more and more of that happen. But of course, you're right. It's there's pockets that still exist, but I believe that they'll die on the vine eventually.
Appreciate that, Mike. All right, Josh, I know you have something to say. Josh and then Alyssa. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so I mean, at Spark Charge, we look at equity in two different buckets, right? It's the people we bring on board and the communities that we impact, right? The ecosystems that we're a part of. I believe our leadership team is, either over 50% diverse and also over 50% coming from a military or veteran background. So when we go out to hire people, we always look for diversity, and number two, are they a veteran? We find that veterans and diversity go hand in hand together, and they make an awesome work group, and they build an awesome culture. When we look at the communities that we impact, I think this is something, I know, Camille, you've heard me go over this time and time again, but the communities you impact come from the people that you hire. If you hire from a community that really wasn't represented, was underrepresented, didn't have a lot of job growth, didn't have a lot of opportunity, you can change the face of that community with your startup, with your company, just from hiring there and deploying capital in that community. And so when at Spark Charge, we look at equity, we say, okay, well, it's the people we bring in the door, but it's also where we hire those people from. It's the communities we hire those people from. That's how we tend to look at it and approach it.
Thank you so much for that, Josh. And go ahead, Alyssa. Bring us home.
Yeah. So I think, echoing Josh, there's two different perspectives that we have too. There's also the people that we hire, and there's also the communities that we serve. So I think from the hiring perspective, it's not just about having a focus and saying you're going to hire diverse. It's about tracking it too. We are an LACI market access company. We've been able to get access to some of those tools to be able to start tracking that. And I think it's also, it's not just about hiring them and bringing them on. It's about having a good culture for them to come in, and also for them to be comfortable being themselves, not like they're trying to conform to some other type of thing that they don't feel comfortable with. I know that the imposter syndrome that's out there, especially if you're coming into a new industry or switching jobs, or during the pandemic, I think that's caused a big uptick in this, personally. But I think you need to make sure that people feel like they're a part of your company and your group, and you're all moving together in the same way, and they have the space to be an individual as well. And then on the community side, it's where you're located. What do we include in our community? And one example, in New Rochelle, New York, were in their downtown area, they're redeveloping. So they have a lot of new development coming in, which to many seems like great economic development. But it's also, how do you make sure that the community that's there takes advantage of that economic development and comes up with the economic development rather than just getting displaced? So we have low-income communities that are part of that zone to help them get better access to jobs and food and healthcare in the area. In Lemur Park, that's also been a focus. And I know, we know with the new SoFi Stadium coming in and Inglewood that is a very, it's a very pressing thing in the community. Like a lot of people see this new economic development coming in just for these economic purposes. But if you don't make sure that the community is able to take advantage of that, and that the new services and places coming in, it's not just they feel like they serve them, but they're a part of them, they can work there, and that it becomes part of their community, not something replacing their community. So I think that's what I think of in equity. And, I'll close there.
Okay, no, thank you. I must say, I am forever impressed and feel very privileged to be a part of this industry. One of the things that has always warned, I came from banking, so I was in finance before, so it feels a little night and day. But one of the things I've loved about our industry is that, it's not that people are just talking to talk. Like, these are things that these companies are doing every single day, and they truly care about it, and you hear it when they speak. So I just want to, just thank y'all for your care, especially with that question. So we are getting towards the end of my set of questions. So I definitely want to encourage all of the folks within this room to throw questions into the chat box. You have a great wealth of knowledge here. But my next question goes to Tosh. So Tosh, if you can, we're going to zoom out a little bit, and if you could just talk a little bit about how hardware, software, service, all of these things working together to accelerate EV adoption and growth.
Yeah, I mean, they all fit together like, gears in a gears in a motor, in an electric motor. I mean, I have I'm fortunate to have partnerships with people on this panel, and I'm really excited about that. I mean, ultimately, we have to create an ecosystem. It's got to create a circular economy that lends growth to itself, and achieve certain goals, like being able to get to zero net carbon, or negative, to have a negative carbon effect in the environment. And so someone's got to put out a great product that that's reliable, that is modular and scalable, and Mike does that with Tritium's chargers, and someone needs to know how to service them, right? And so Camille's team will come to our customers' locations and be able to service those chargers and make sure that they're operational for people, and we don't have downtime on our chargers. If someone gets stranded in the middle of nowhere, Josh's company, his product will be there to make sure people can have an emergency charge and get to a charger so that they can be able to get on their way. And what our software does is it's able to integrate all these different devices, fuel cells, solar panels, batteries, both on and off grid, to be able to optimize how these things work together, so that we're maximizing the value of all these assets together, both from a site perspective and also from a fleet perspective. So everything has to work together, and if for this to work, everyone's business model has to be effective. And so, part of the reason why we've selected the partners that we have is because of that business model that they have, because of the products that they have, because of the people that they hire, because of all these different factors that go into, working together to create this ecosystem that gives people the ability to have mobility, regardless of, you know, their you know, their economic standing or their social standing, or you know, where they live geographically. And it's you know, it all goes hand in hand, and we're really excited to be a small part of that.
Much, Tosh. My next question is for Mike. Mike, if you can talk a little bit more about DC fast chargers, where they're used, like why would people need them? What do they need to expect, and how, and I guess, and you talked already about your scale up, but if you just want to go a little bit into about DC fast chargers for us.
Sure. So think of AC charging as a place that you will naturally charge up while your car is doing something else. So for people who own a single family home, your car sits in the garage overnight, you go to sleep, you're doing something else with that car, you plug in, you get that charge. That's called like a dwell charging while that car is sitting there doing something. If you go to a ball game, let's say, and you're there for 3 or 4 hours, you went to the ball game to go see the game, not to charge your car, but you get to charge your car while you're at the ball game. That's the AC mentality. DC's much more like the gas station experience without the gas station experience. Let me describe. People really don't, you know, how many people like to go to the gas station, right? No one wants to go to the gas station, but what do we love about the gas station? It's really convenient. It's a no-brainer. So today, all ICE vehicles, gas-powered vehicles, you know, a little light comes on, and if you pay attention to that light, you're empty, you pull in within the next 10 miles, you pull in anywhere, and you charge up in 6 to 7 minutes, okay? Sometimes it takes you a little longer, sometimes it takes you a little less. So think about that convenience factor. So that's human nature. We're all driven by the immediate response. How many people actually, I mean, you can, if you're super nerding out on this, raise your hand. You know, how many people actually say, oh, I have X amount of miles left on my gas tank? No, they don't. Come on. Light comes on, no brainer, fill it up, go to the next location. You could go to a long distance travel. You don't even care how much, you don't have to go the night before to fill up. You can just shoot out there and get your tank. Some might plan a little bit. So that's the real difference between the DC experience and the AC experience. So why is it so critical to have DC charging everywhere? Because we are still wired for the immediate response. We still have those habits literally ingrained in our DNA. It is literally ingrained in our DNA. Fuel is something we don't have to worry about. We take it for granted. And by the way, we have to thank the oil companies for that. Yes, I go public. We have to thank the oil companies for that. We've been demanding energy for, you know, hundreds of years, and they've been delivering energy that they can find it in dead dinosaurs really deep somewhere. They've been able to convert that for us to be able to move rapidly without thinking. So there's something we have to take away about that. In order to get EV to fully adopt, and there's a lot of pundits, you can talk about social media, well, we'll just have these chargers at our home. Well, guess what? I don't own a single family home. Well, we'll put them in multi-unit dwellings. Well, my parking stall won't allow me to do that. And my homeowners association is grappling with it. And it's not equitable. And who do I charge? Well, you can charge at work. Oh, well, that means if I have a gas powered, I don't get free gas. There's a whole host of problems with AC charging in where people live. So you need DC public charging in order to deliver that gas station experience without the gas station. So you can get in and out relatively quickly, catch a bio break, check an email, get a bite to eat, and within 20 minutes, you've got 100 miles. And it's going to the point where the 50K watts that we have out there today are going to 75 kilowatts. We just introduced an RTM 75, which is literally taking the industry by storm. We're up to 175K with an RT. We're going to 350. In Europe, they actually have these, and we're starting now in the Americas, where we're able to take a Porsche Taycan. Now that's a high-end vehicle, so that's not for everybody, but because it's high-end, it has very high voltage capability. They paid, you know, you pay for that speed. You can go 200 miles in 15 minutes of charge. That's pretty much almost equivalent to a gas-powered vehicle. Now you take that down, the cheaper the cars get, the faster they'll be able to charge. And so we're seeing this trend toward very fast charging in the future. And that's why DC is so critical, because it's in order to get that full adoption, We need to deliver what people want. And when you interview people, they say, we're not really going to get an EV until I know that I could pull into a charger and get it in and out real quick and go another 300 miles.
Thank you for that. I never have to think about going to, when I had a gas bar, I never think about going to the gas station. It's never an event, right? And so
Right.
like, as an industry, we really have to get into this ideal that it shouldn't be like this crazy event. But if it is an experience, let it be like a ChargeNet experience where there's like a big thing that I can interact with, right? And so with that, as we wrap up, my favorite thing about talking to like founders and folks who run things is like usually we're visionaries and you have some type of like vision of where you want to see things go. And so my question to all of you would either be, you know, you can answer the question of like, where do you see the vision? Like, where do you want to see things go in the next 5 to 10 years? And if you can wrap up, if there's one thing that you want folks to take away, like if they've blanked out on the last hour, what is that one piece of information you want these folks to take away? And let's start off with Josh, and then we'll hit Tosh, Mike, and then Alyssa, you'll take us home. Go ahead, Josh.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having us. I think the one, how we predict the future, we believe mobile on-demand charging will be the go-to way that electric vehicle owners prefer to charge their phone. The convenience, the speed, the fact that we're bringing a DC fast charger to you, the fact that we can give you, 20 miles in under 20 minutes. We think that electric vehicle owners are really going to prefer to go that route. We've seen other industries go that route with food delivery, with grocery delivery, with, commuting and getting to work. We believe that it really just makes sense that the industry will go to on-demand mobile charging as the go-to way to have your car charged conveniently and safe. When, if there's one thing we want people to take away, it's the fact that, number one, the network that we're creating, this network that's available everywhere, this network that is basically meant and designed for the EV owner to not have to worry about charging their car, to not have to worry about, the event of going to a charging station. It's so much more than just roadside, right? In fact, 90% of all our new customers are not roadside. They're the people that are doing the on-demand. They're the people that are servicing the apartment. They're the people that are saying, hey, I'm showing up to people's houses who didn't want to spend thousands of dollars installing a charging station on the side of their house because it's quicker and easier for them to push a button and have range delivered. So I think as we see the industry grow, and the one thing I want people to take away from this is that, Boost EV and Spark Charge, we really look forward to servicing these EV owners. We really think that over the next couple of weeks, we got some really exciting news that'll be rolling out. And we really look forward to sharing with the world just how convenient mobile on-demand charging can be to the world.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Go ahead, Tosh.
Do you want charging with that? I think that's really the question. Like, we asked, do you want fries with that, right? I mean, that's really how it should be. And that's the type of solution that we're creating. And, I imagine that, you guys wouldn't be on this listening to this panel if you weren't interested in electric vehicles. If you don't have one, it's going to be a part of our lives. It's inevitable. And, we're really grateful for your support and listening to the ideas and thoughts that we have about, how this is going to evolve in the future. And you have an opportunity, if you have an opportunity to invest in EV startups like mine and Camille's, and Josh's, go for it. I mean, this is really kind of where we're going to see a lot of growth, and and we want to make this accessible and convenient for everyone. And again, we're just really excited to have a place in this world and be able to provide the solution and solve the problems that having lots of EVs on the road is going to bring for us.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tosh. Mike.
Okay, so the way I look at this is we have a lot of work to do. We've been doing a lot of work in the last 10 years. To go back to my original S-curve, it's taken us 10 years to do what today? Anybody know? 3% adoption of EVs, okay? Just 3. However, because of the laws of accelerated returns, you're starting to see this adoption double and double and double every year. You're going into this dramatic growth. But I like to say this, our work is not done, okay? Some people say, oh, you were the CEO of Blink, you did pretty well. Why are you still working? Oh, our work is not done. And here's why. In the next 10 years, and this is the critical decade, It's a 3-decade solution from the first EVs to the last gas. The next decade, this decade is critical because of that S curve. And I'm not satisfied until we convert 250 million ICE vehicles on the roads in the United States. Okay, you guys, I want you to, that's what resonates with Tritium. That's what should resonate with everybody. We're all sitting here saying, you know, I want to improve the new sales by 10 and get 10% of EVs in new sales. Fantastic. You have to start there. That's that beginning. Okay. I want, you know, total 5% adoption across the US, and maybe in California we have that, but we don't have that in Nebraska. Okay. We don't have that in a lot of places. For those in California, we see we see the telescope, we're already there, but for the rest of the United States, they don't see what we see. They don't see 20 EVs pass us by every day. They see one, they think it's special. What does that mean? Until we convert there's about 275 million cars on the road. A lot of them are used cars, a lot of them are gas guzzlers, a lot of them are large SUVs. Until we convert that fleet, then our work is not done. So in the next decade, we need the Biden administration. We need states to follow a zero emission vehicle policy like California led, and now New York, New Jersey, and it's going to start a ripple effect in Massachusetts and across the board where high densities most people live. Then we're not going to be satisfied. So that's the vision. It's really about cleaner cities, healthier cities, more convenient cities. You spoke about that convenience. That's called energy freedom. We take it for granted here. We pay a little at the price for gas, but we take it for granted. That gas flows. We've had to create that as a nation for energy freedom. But now we need energy freedom for electric energy, because electricity is a heck of a lot better than petroleum. It's not a chemical process, and it doesn't emit carbon emissions and greenhouse gas effects. So until and I won't sleep at night, and I don't sleep at night, until we've converted 250 million vehicles in the next decade, we still have some work to do. But you know what? We're on our way, because the knee of that curve is going to start to work with us now. I'm very hopeful.
Thank you so much, Mike. All right, Alyssa, here we go.
Okay.
What do you
The
want?
next 10 years, vision. I believe we're going to see a lot more favorable policies towards something that we should be expecting, that our air is going to be clean, that it's not just going to be personal vehicles. Transportation takes up so much in terms of air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. And I feel like so many of these different ecosystems pieces that we're talking about, whether it be your personal car, being able to charge it yourself, whether it be fleets, whether it be public transit, if you don't have something that's electric or zero emissions, you're going to be unique. We're not going to be unique. You're going to be unique because, you know, why would you not have that? It's going to be expected. And I think it's going to be demanded. It's not just going to be policy driven. We're going to start seeing the demand drive so much more of this further to where other groups, other people, that they're not going to have a choice economically to not do it. If you're a new building, you should have proximity to transit. You should have an ability to charge an electric vehicle there. You should have these different amenities, just like parking was expected to be in a building. That's not going to be the case in cities going forward. That's my vision. And I think, you know, one thing to take away from all of this is that electric vehicles need to be made to seem like it could be anyone's, whether it's a service or an electric vehicle charger, or, you know, the roadside assistance and stuff that Tosh has. But all of these things are going to feel like they're yours. You can take part in this industry. You could take part in, you know, in these services, and they are yours. Because if you don't have this connection to the community and you're not listening to the community, like Mike said, you're not going to sell to that community either.
Thank you, Alyssa. And then with that, y'all, thank you so much for rocking with us. We actually have pretty much everybody stayed on, which is amazing. So thank you for staying on and hanging out. If you could take one thing away, my little one thing, Judy, super fast, it's this ideal that, like, It doesn't matter what you've previously done or what the folks you're helping try to get jobs previously done. You can find a job in this industry. And from these CEOs and like business leaders, you've seen that like, it's not that equity is a nice to have or that is a handout. It's this ideal that equity and getting folks from our communities to be a part of our company is actually going to make us better. And these folks believe it and they said it and they do it every single day. So with that, I thank y'all for having me, and I would love to turn it back over to Judy.
And thank you. I mean, what an awesome panel. I really appreciate everyone's insight. I tell you, it was so many good nuggets and funny and creative and challenging. I tell you, Camille, thank you so much for your challenge that you gave us, your overview of your business and your background and your challenge. And I thank you, Mike and Tosh and Josh and Alyssa. I really appreciate all this good information. And, you know, never before do we have the urgency for equity and clean energy and saving the environment and building good jobs. I mean, I've been in economic development for decades, and I've never seen this urgency that we have in front of us right now. So all of you spoke to this issue on all these different levels. And I love it, Camille, that you ended with your challenge about you can get a job in this industry. And Mike, your passion for equity is incredible. Alyssa, community-based ridership. And Josh and Tosh, I think you bring such a unique slice of the pie and your what you offer in charging. And so I just really want to thank everybody for your passion, for your leadership, for what you're doing in this industry. We really appreciate it, and for your time this morning. So stay tuned. Our E4 Council meets quarterly. We also have additional CCW meetings that are really focused on advocacy in job creation, and you'll hear about that as well. We also have additional meetings that are really focused on policy. So stay tuned and stay in touch, and have a great Thursday. Thank you all.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks.